Hey there guys, how's it going? Thanks for checking out this video. In this video I'm going to show you how you can power level on official servers. The reason being is we are going to be having some brand new servers come out on release date. As of making this video, they say the release date for the full version of ARK is going to be the end of August, and so when that happens we're all going to be making new characters starting from scratch. And obviously PvP servers, it's going to be a race for alpha, and part of that race is a race to level as quickly as possible. The people who can level quickly are probably going to be able to get a good stranglehold in the server because they can make the high-end gear, high-end saddles, and dominate early on. Now, before I start this video, I'd like to give a little bit of a shout out to another YouTuber whose video I watched, and I took a lot of information from his video and then added my own twists and my own roots to it. So Lucky by Nature is a YouTuber that I watched for this kind of guide. It's roughly the same as what I'm doing here, but on mine I've got some fresh tips which are going to be useful for console players especially, and my own kind of spin and advice on it. But I'd like if you guys would subscribe to them, just show a little bit of love because they came up with this idea. So if you're watching this video, you probably will want to know more things that they're going to know and that they're going to be making videos on. So link for them is in the description below. So a few things to know. Here I'm going to rush level up to around level 67 odd. Bear in mind this is on official servers, so I was dealing with lots of lag. I was dealing with some of the survivor notes actually being blocked by bases and so on, so all the things you might expect when you're actually doing it. I was also dealing with the fact that I might die to Trudons and so on. I nearly died to a Trudon at one point, but for the most part I managed to stay alive by being smart, and I highly recommend that you try and do so. So this footage you're going to be seeing is on an official PvE server, and it is during a 2x event, so it was a weekend event. Now I know that you might think, well, we're not going to be able to get the same XP as you. However, I figured out the amount of XP that I get in this video, even if you halved it, it would still get you to level 60. The reason being that the gap between level 60 and 67, the amount of XP you get there is such a big gap that it obviously means that you have to earn almost the same XP all over again just to add those levels. So the first tip is just for PS4 players. I'm not sure if there is a way of doing this on Xbox, but something I found extremely useful was to change my configuration of my buttons. So to do this, go to settings, then accessibility, and then button assignments, and change around R1 and triangle. Now you can play like this if you want, however it can make it a little bit difficult if you're used to playing a lot of ARK, so you might want to swap it back after you've done this leveling strat. But what this will allow you to do is to run around and pick up things off of the floor without taking your thumb off of the right stick, which is going to help you move around quicker and gather things quicker as well. So while you're doing this run, you are going to need to be gathering stones and berries and fiber off the floor to keep yourself fed and to keep yourself alive. So this run is going to be all about getting those survivor and explorer notes. There are going to be some stages in here where I suggest that you could stop and pause and do some crafting. However, I found for the most part you might as well just keep going for those survivor notes, and if you can stay alive, a lot of these survivor note experiences will add up. There was one point where I nearly had 6,000 plus seconds worth of double XP to have. Now I do actually take a death towards the end because I got a little bit ambitious, going for somewhere that I really didn't need to, but if you play it a little bit safe you can do that, and there's never going to be another time where you're going to have that amount of XP going. So if you can get into like 2,000-3,000 seconds worth of XP, it might be worth just stopping there and crafting whatever you can craft at that time. So on screen now I'm going to show you the first route that I suggest or recommend. This is starting on West Zone 2. Now I highly recommend that you practice doing this either on single player, or why not just go on an official server and try it for real, you know. Don't be scared to go on official, create a new character. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to take some deaths on the character that doesn't matter. Now this will be easier for those of you who know the map pretty well, but I would presume that if you're the kind of person that really wants to power level quickly, that you probably are an experienced ARK player who wants to get to those higher levels and dominate. So Don't worry, it's not going to be a perfect run. It wasn't a perfect run for me, although this was my first try, so I didn't even have to do a practice run to get this run, and I did absolutely fine. Don't be too downhearted if it takes you a while to find some of the notes. It will happen. Obviously, I'm trying to do this in well under 2 hours. I think I ended up doing it about an hour and a half, just to try and prove to you guys that it can be done. But it's going to be release day when you do this, or it's going to be a time where you probably aren't as constrained by time as I am, so you can miss the odd one. You can take a couple of deaths. It's really not a problem. Don't get disheartened. Just keep going at it and keep trying to run this route. Now obviously there are more survivor notes than what I'm showing here, as you can see from the map. However, some of these are underground in caves and others are just plain difficult to get to. So I've taken into consideration here, I've gone for ones that are going to be easy to get and that aren't in too dangerous areas. Obviously there's ones up in the snow and in the middle of the map around the volcano that you can get, but you're probably just better off getting those at a later date, especially as considering once you've done this you should have the grinder unlocked. So my route starts off in West 2 down towards Crags Island, circling around there, then heading back to the west over towards the waterfall near Red Obelisk, and then down to the Red Obelisk and basically all the way up the west coast. Then when you get to the top near West 3, coming back down again from that river up near the volcano, back down again through to almost where you started, and then just right a little bit to the end point that I've marked here on my map. Now once you get to this point, you've really got two options in my opinion. You should be at least level 40, so you should be able to really start thinking about, if you want, just start going at it, start taming things and whatever. By level 40 you'll have most of the tools that you want, you'll have most of the weapons that you want, and you'll be able to build in stone. However, what you can do at this point is then take a break, start crafting. You can craft storage boxes by now, that's what I ended up doing here. Obviously another thing you can do is kill dinos and obviously make rafts. That is a little bit riskier, and at this point in my run I had like about 3,000 seconds worth of double XP, so I didn't want to risk that by taking a death. And sometimes when you're taking on dinos you end up taking that death, but obviously making rafts is another great option. Thinking back to it, I probably should have gone for rafts, and really not that difficult to do, but storage boxes was just easy for me to do, so I did that and got myself another little boost. The next up is kind of what I would call the South Coast run. Not quite as many here, but by this point you should be quite high level. Ideally, like I said before, stay alive if you can throughout this whole run. If you can't, it's not the end of the world, but it will give you a large amount of double XP towards the end to spend your time crafting and killing things. So you can see here on the little diagram that I've done, and by the way, all the diagrams and little tips I'm going to leave in the description so that you can have up while you're trying to play. It starts here in South 2, up on top of that small mountain that's in the South Zone that I really like to use early on. If you're thinking about building early on, it's not a bad thing to do. Down towards Stonehenge, around that area you've got 5 or 6 all quite close together. Then you have to run a bit more east to get to the next set, until eventually you end up around South Zone 3, where again there is quite a few bunched together. Now again, by this point you've either got the option of really thinking about going to Herbivore Island to get the last 2, which I tried to do, but end up not being a good idea because I died to a shark. If I hadn't have done that, I would have had quite a lot of XP for quite a long time. So once you've done this next run, I would then suggest either crafting more stuff or making a bow and arrow and going up north. You could even make a raft and then start to head up north, make yourself a bow and arrow. Now in my run, because I took the death, what I decided to do was spawn in North 1, and my idea was I was going to try and get a few of the notes up in North 1, then I was going to try and kill Argents with bow and arrow, because Argents are pretty good XP. They're also very, very easy to kill with the bow and arrow. One thing I probably should have mentioned at the start of this video, but hopefully you'll kind of understand the idea and I'll do this anyway. I would highly recommend putting your points into movement speed first when doing this. My recommendation is that as you get your levels, you put everything into movement speed until you get around 150. I would say once you get around 140, you can pretty much outrun everything on the island. Very few exceptions, but I like to go to 150. After I did that, I got my health up to 200 because obviously you might get attacked by things, and being able to take a couple more hits is useful. You're not going to need weight at this point. You're not really making anything. Once you've got your movement speed to around 150, health to around 200, then I went into weight. No melee for me whatsoever here. I don't need melee at this point, and any time that I am going to need melee, I'd rather just run away. You shouldn't be fighting things really that are going to take more than normal melee at this point. So after health, I went into weight, went around 200, which allowed me to get a little bit more crafting done and allows you to make a raft without having to drop too many things. After you've done that weight, either maybe a bit more into weight, or you can start pumping your melee and really just start customizing your build altogether. Obviously, end game, your stats are going to be much more than this, but this isn't a bad starter point. Normally, you don't need that much health when you're first starting off PvP. A lot of people go for weight and a bit of movement speed, mainly because at the beginning of PvP, you're going to be doing a lot of grinding, ideally, to really fortify your base. So weight is going to be quite useful, and you're not going to have that Quetzal until quite late in the game at this point. So you're going to want that Argent Saddle, and it's going to be nice when you're moving stuff around in your base. So that basically covers it here. I kind of mentioned all the things I wanted to mention. If you want to stop doing this once you get to around level 40, that's not a terrible option. Then you can tame yourself, your Pteranodon, you can get your stone base going, and you can start crafting things that will give you good XP. Ideally, you would like to get yourself up to level 65, which is very doable here. And once you've reached level 65, you've unlocked full flak, you've unlocked Argent Saddle, C4, metal structures including the Behemoth Gate, and even more importantly, you've unlocked the Industrial Grinder once you get to level 65 now. So really, that's where you're going to want to be getting your XP. If you want to grind out more XP after this, Industrial Grinder is probably the way to go. A final note, some things that I've researched a little bit just to refresh myself. Maybe things have changed in the game that would give some good XP and are very easy to make. Now, if you're under level 60, the thing I would most recommend making is a shotgun. Shotguns give a ridiculous amount of XP for how easy they are to make, and I guess it's just fun to have lots of shotguns. Now, don't get me wrong, it won't be long into these new servers where primitive shotguns aren't really going to be what you'll want to be rocking, but trust me, absolutely great XP from these things. Not including rafts obviously in this, because raft is quite obvious, but again, a raft would be a great thing to make. Other things you can make when you're under level 60 that give a surprisingly good amount of XP and are very cheap to make are Megalodon saddles, track saddles, fabricators, funnily enough, and even simple pistols. If I was going to pick my top two there, I would say just making the shotguns and the simple pistols will give you some really good XP. Now, if you manage to get over level 60, so level 60 and above, here are some really good things to make that will give you great XP. And not only these things that are very easy to make, but all of these things I'm recommending are hopefully things that you might actually use, you might actually want. So once you're over level 60, things that give you great XP: Argent Saddle, Industrial Cookers, incredible amount for Industrial Cookers, though they're hard to make. Giga Saddles, relatively easy to make and good XP. Rocket Launchers, Fabricated Snipers, Spray Painters, weirdly enough. Fridges, Pump Action Shotguns, and Air Conditioners. And my top three there are definitely Argent Saddles, because Argent Saddles are very useful to have and they're very cheap to make. Rocket Launchers, again, can never really have too many rocket launchers flying around, especially now that primitive is the only quality you can get for rocket launchers. And then finally, Spray Painters, because they are very cheap to make for the XP that they give. So that's my advice and I guess guide for doing some power leveling on day one. New servers out soon. Hopefully you guys have fun. And this strategy obviously is for the island only. I've been told that you are going to be able to transfer between the new servers, so don't worry, you'll be able to do this and then go over to Ragnarok or Scorched or wherever you want to set up. But considering this will probably take you guys about an hour and a half, maximum 2 hours, even with things going wrong, I think it's well worth doing that first day to have most of the stuff that you're going to want to have unlocked. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you found it useful, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you're new around here. Make sure that you watch out, because we're going to have lots more tutorials, videos and gameplay, especially on the new server releases. So thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time.